Okay, today my guest is Casey Winchell Napolitano with NDA Real Estate in Los Angeles. Let me tell you more about Casey. Now, Casey Winchell Napolitano is a real estate broker and the founder of NDA Real Estate, a luxury real estate agency serving California's elite. Under her belt are hundreds of sales in Los Angeles, ranging from probate fixer uppers to multi million dollar luxury estates. And in addition to working with such a wide range of properties, including REOs, single and multifamily residential homes, condos, trust sales, she considers herself a short term rental expert. Beyond her exciting property investments and thriving real estate career, Casey is also a dedicated wife and proud mother to her three beautiful children, Sienna, Gemma, and Jack. I was actually with my friend who has a son Jack, just this last weekend, by the way, along
Nice.
with being a foodie and an architecture and tennis enthusiast. I am also a tennis enthusiast, by the way. She is proud to donate her resources to various charities supporting women and children in need. Everybody needs to follow Casey on Instagram, which is at Casey Napolitano. That's CaseyNapolitano. Also, check out her real estate brokerage website, which is nda-re.com. We will have links to all of this in the show notes. So you don't have to write it down. Just scroll to the show notes, follow her on Instagram, check out NDA Real Estate. Casey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am very excited to speak to you because you are the great granddaughter of one of the best. And I'm sorry because we are going to get to your superstardom very shortly, but we need to.
Yeah.
I want to go all the way back to your great grandfather. In fact, I almost just took some of your thunder away, but I have well, we will get to this, but Casey has a very impressive family history and something that I was telling her offline. But let's let the audience in on everything. So let's go all the way back to the very beginning because I would love to know. Your real estate career obviously starts. You have your own story, but you actually go back several generations. So
Yes.
I'd love to hear about how real estate was part of your family for all these years.
Yeah. So growing up, I moved like 5 times with my parents because they were always like buying homes and fixing them up and selling them. And we were constantly moving like in my younger years. And I was just like, wow, this is it at a young age, it like really fascinated me. And then I had my great grandpa, Vern Winchell, who founded Winchell's Donuts. And I never really thought anything of it. Honestly, probably until I went to college did I know, like, how big of a thing that was, and so I like to bring it up now because people think it's fun. But he also did real estate. I feel like he had, like, dozens of homes, like, all over, and it was just always so cool to me, just real estate in general, that you could just be your own boss and find deals, and every kind of deal is just so different, like, you could just, like, decide what you wanna do. And then my parents, when I was like around 10, I remember they bought a apartment building that needed everything. It was like just a wreck. And I watched them like redo all the units. And still to this day, like if they get a vacancy, I'll come in and I'll fix it up so they can get more rent. I'm kind of like become like the design
Yeah.
person of the family. And growing up, my dad did probate auctions and also new home sales auctions all over the country. We even went to Portugal at one point, and I worked for him from a young age. Like, I think I started working his auctions at like maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
They're called probate auctions. And basically, he would get a certain amount of properties every couple months, and then the auction would be out front of the house, and the
Yeah.
house would be sold as is, and everybody would have a bidder card, and there'd be no contingencies at all.
Right.
So you're buying
As
it with
is.
all the stuff, like that's it. You get what you get, and it was so exciting. It was just super fun. And then at one point, he was doing a lot of like new home sales. So we would go to like Seattle, and there would be like 50 condo units that weren't selling. And he would come and do like a new marketing program. And we would sell 50 units in one day in a hotel ballroom. And
Wow.
it was super fun. Like, it was super cool. It was different. So yeah. And then my mom, she worked at, or still works at Rodeo Realty. in Calabasas, and she does high-end homes. And then my grandma, growing up, her name's Brenda Winchell. She would be driving around like with her red nails and her platinum blonde hair, and she'd be taking notes on her hands. I'll never forget it. She would always have like notes on her hands, looking for like the next property to sell her clients. And also, my Aunt Mimi was like a big time agent in Hollywood. So I was kind of like, I kind of like had to do it because I knew so much about it that it was like, if I don't do this, like I'm gonna really like start fresh somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Pepperdine for writing, for
Sure.
journalism. And then I was like, I think I turned 18. I got my real estate license, my salesperson license. And then should I just go keep going or?
No, this is excellent, and I was just no, yes, I mean all of
Yeah,
this is great. I was
yeah.
thinking when you said Pepperdine, I remember Pepperdine's like right on the water too, isn't it? Like it's
It's
basic.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's so sick.
if you if your child ever wants to go to Pepperdine, they are going to have an incredible. It's is it Malibu or it's
It's
near Malibu,
Malibu.
right?
It's
It's
Malibu.
Malibu. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
have some friends that that went there, and they said anyway. But aside from that, so it's either donuts or real estate. You had to go into one of those two industries, and
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and by the way, if anyone, there are still a few Winchell's stores or shops. Where are they for anyone out there? Because if you haven't had a Winchell's donut, I have had one. They are incredible. They are literally the best donuts you'll ever have. Where can they find them in SoCal?
So in Los Angeles, there's one in Tarzana off of Reseda, right off the freeway, and
Mhm.
then there's one on Melrose in Hollywood. I think
Awesome.
there might be one on Vine still, but back in the day, like they were
They were everywhere.
like every exit off the 101, there was a Winchell's Donuts, and still to this day, if you see a donut shop and the sign is shaped like a triangle, you know it was a Winchell's at some point. So
Uh,
back in the 80s when he sold the whole company to Yum Yum Donuts, you would start seeing that they would just keep the sign, but then just a
yeah.
new name was on it. It was
Well, that was
like
that's a
that
very big
triangle.
brand, and so what I know a lot of our audience might be thinking is she grew up in a real estate family. This is all must be so easy for her because
Hmm.
she's just been involved with it for her entire life. And goes back generations. You have grandparents and great grandparents. And in fact, I do want to make a point. Your great grandfather, who did start Winchell's Donuts, had said, yes, that's my business, but
Yeah,
real estate is really the best investment. And he really hammered that into the family, right? So the idea
exactly.
was the donuts were what paid the bills, but then also wanting to build sort of multi-generational wealth through these real estate investments. And it obviously spread to like every member of your family.
Exactly. 100% for sure.
So
Um,
you've been a realtor now for about 13 years or so, which is amazing, and you're crushing it in Beverly Hills. I would love to know, I guess what our audience would wants to know is like,
mhm.
how did you grow your business, right?
Yeah.
So you came from a real estate family, but at the end of
Mhm.
the day, you still have to build your own business. How did you go about doing that? I'd love to know like what steps you took. I mean, because you've been a broker for 13 years, but you're still relatively new as an agent, even though you're
Mhm.
crushing it. So I'd love to
Yeah.
know like how you got started.
So, in my early 20s, I did a lot of event promoting in Hollywood, and I feel like that was a good starting point to um, like build my network.
Sure.
Just I met thousands of people, just who wanted to go to the event and befriended them, and it was just all like I don't know, just like a natural kind of social thing that was like a good um, baseline. So I worked at my real estate company. It was like a big commercial and acquisitions company, but I was like part of five people who did residential sales. So I would get there at like 9 in the morning and then work until like 6 at night, like standard, corporate job. And then I would go home, get ready for the event. And I was doing events at like, there's like a famous club called Hyde. And I would just like walk over there and work there from like 10 o'clock till 2 in the morning. And then I would get up and go back to work, like get up at 6:30 and get ready and
Oh,
go to work. I had like multiple outfits in the trunk of my car at all times, like for my many hats that I was wearing. And so I feel like that was a good way to like start the hustle of just like networking.
Yeah.
Because in real estate or sales in general, like you really just have to go for it and be confident and know as many people as possible. So I was doing that. And then honestly, my first client ever is my husband right now, which sounds kind of silly and dumb, but it's the
Not
truth.
at all. It's
Yeah.
because I always say if you're going to make mistakes, do it with family. They're the ones that are. If you're new,
Yeah.
a lot of times people think, "Oh, I don't want to work with my friends or family right now. I don't feel very experienced." And I always say, "Who's most likely to forgive you?" And it's going to be friends and family. I'm
I
just
mean,
making
you
a joke,
learn a
but
lot with every
yeah,
single deal. Like even now, like every single deal, like something new comes up and it's just important to like just keep going.
yeah,
But like I matched with him on Tinder. I was in my early or mid 20s and
sure.
my best friend was like, "You are dating like the worst guys. Like go on Tinder." And I'm like, "But aren't the worst guys on Tinder?"
That's
And
exactly. Let's go into the
yeah.
lion's den where the worst people are.
And he was like, "Dude, just try it." So my
And
first
you found the good guy
I
on
found the
Tinder.
good guy, like, which is like an understatement. So my first and only Tinder date, his
First
profile
and
was,
only.
yeah,
Oh,
it's crazy.
that's a sweet
So,
story.
or I was just super desperate. Like, you never know.
We're all
No,
super desperate.
no, we knew. So, when we matched, his profile picture was him speaking at a wedding, like he was the best man. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, like this guy's
yeah.
like looking, for something real. And so we went on the date and it was like a 3-hour date. The valet parkers had to bring in my keys. They were like, you guys got to go. Like the
You gotta
restaurant's
go home.
closed. Yeah. And he was like, how many homes have you sold? Cause I was like, just talking about, cause he's older, he's 7 years older. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm just like big time real estate. And he's like, how many homes have you sold? And I'm like, well, I've worked on like 20, but
Yeah.
I haven't sold any by myself. Right.
Sure.
So months passed and he's like, we're very serious. And he's like, I really want to buy my first place. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So we started looking in Sherman Oaks and he was my client. And at the first one, like he liked, we walked out front and he put his arm around me and he was like, this would be perfect for us. And so at that
Ooh.
moment, I was like, oh, okay. So we ended up getting it together 6 months into dating before getting engaged or anything like that.
Which everyone
And
says never do that, and it
yeah,
worked out for you guys.
yes, and it just felt right, and it was a huge remodel, so to
Yeah.
make matters worse, we moved in with my parents, so he's like a 34-year-old man, right, living
Oh,
with my
brutal.
parents. Yeah, and that was like a great test to see if we could last, but we did a huge remodel and
That is a stress test for sure.
yeah, and my parents are super great, but we're really close, so it's like a lot.
Yeah.
And, so living through that remodel was amazing, and cut to we got pregnant, like, after we got married and we were living there. Um, a month in, we were like, "We wanna live in Calabasas, like, we wanna raise our kids in Calabasas. It's so safe. Calabasas is, like, a great community for families. We wanna be closer to my parents because 'cause they're, let's be honest, free babysitters."
Sure.
And, on the weekends, we would be traveling, we would rent out the house on Airbnb. Like, we were those weirdos that were like, "It's fine, like, let's rent it out." We had an owner's closet while we were living there, and that turned out to be an amazing lead generator for me.
Really?
So yes. So, um, once it's such a crazy story. So, like, when we decided we wanna move to Calabasas, there was nothing for sale, and we just walked the neighborhood and we put about like 20 handwritten letters in mailboxes. And we're like, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Like, let me buy your house." And like, I think 3 people called me out of 20. And
Wow.
yes. And we ended up buying the house that we're in now. The tenant, it was a rental property, and the tenant gave it to the landlord. And the landlord called me like 2 weeks later. And he was like, "I heard you want to buy my house." So I'm like, "Yes, I do." Anyways, we ended up buying it like we saw it for like 5 minutes. All the lights were off. It was a wreck and we were like, "We'll take it." And we got a great deal and it was another remodel, but we ended up keeping our first house. And so that became a full-time rental property. So we started doing the Airbnb short term, and that was great. I would like a random celebrity would rent it. And this particular celebrity is someone I actually like went to middle school with, like so random. And she was like, by the way, we ended up connecting. And she's like, by the way, while I'm in town, I want to look for houses. Can you show me some? So then that's when I started showing her houses. And then
Yeah.
I got another celebrity in there. And she was like, I can't find a property. I only want to live in this particular area. Like, what can you do? So I started going on the MLS and finding expired, canceled, withdrawn listings, hitting them all up. Got a lot of people angry, a lot of people hanging up on me. Like, what? This is my privacy. Like, I'm on the do not call list. But then I would get like maybe two yeses. Oh, we're still interested in selling. It wasn't the right time. So I'd give her those leads, and she's like, damn, like, you're really hardworking. Like, I've never had this before. So then the best part about that story is that something hit the market and she sent it to me and she was like, can we get this house? And I'm like, sure, let's go see it. So she ended up buying that house that was listed. She could have gone with her agent she worked with before, but
Sure.
because she knew I was like constantly thinking about her, like that trust and that like hardworking thing, she used me on that deal.
Yeah,
So
it's like
yeah,
at that time you guys were a team almost, right? And she
yeah,
actually found the property, but you had done so much work and heavy lifting prior
yeah.
to that that it didn't matter who found it. She was with you. And
Yes.
that is such a wonderful compliment to you.
It's really important though to build trust more than anything with your client. Um, because there's a lot of people out there that like don't have their clients back like fully. And if you show them like they're your client, but you're also their friend, like you literally care about their well-being, then they're going to stick with you forever. And I just think that is the most important thing. It's like when you pick a doctor to do an important surgery on you, you go with the one that's like the most trustworthy, you know. You don't go with the one who's like going to give you a discount.
Right. You know, it's funny. I just started thinking about this in the last couple years. Speaking of health, and I think this relates to real estate because I have a number of doctors like everybody. I've got a dermatologist, and I've got my general practitioner that does
Yeah.
my physical every year, and I've got my I've got the orthopedic person when I have a sports injury or whatever. Right. So you have this team of people, a
Yeah.
psychiatrist, things like that, and all I really want, I mean, I want them to be competent, but more importantly, I want them to care.
Yeah.
And I've had experiences with physicians where I felt like they did care, and I've had experiences where I felt like they didn't. And I will take somebody who cares about me even over somebody maybe who's considered a better doctor, or
Yeah.
maybe has more accolades or more accoutrements, thing. And I think the same applies for real estate. Like
Yeah.
if your clients, like you were saying, your friend saw all the hard work you did, also had a benchmark because they had worked with an agent prior and
Mhm.
said, well, my previous agent didn't do this, that
Yeah.
that is what usually wins the race, in my opinion.
Yes, for sure. So since then, I was working at like that big corporate office, I'll say it, a boys club, and I started bringing in a bunch of deals, and people were like noticing and wondering, what is she doing different? And I literally would do marketing, like social media photo shoots in the office, and it gets people talking and honestly DMing you, which gets you clients. Like you would never in a million years think like, oh, I'm gonna post me showing a house that someone will buy a house just from that post. Like there's a new thing that's happening. I'm sure it's happening where you live with agents. They'll be going to brokers opens on Tuesdays,
Yeah.
or it's Tuesdays here, Tuesdays and Fridays, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they will just fully just show it on their story and boom, someone will message them and say, "Can you show me this?" And then
By the way,
boom.
can we pause for a second? Is
Yeah.
that not the greatest idea that anyone who's not busy as a realtor should be doing in their local market?
Yes.
Go
Yes.
to like in the past, it was a little bit tougher to get brokers, or again, we call them broker opens here in Chicago. And by the way, for our audience, if I use the word broker, it's synonymous here in Illinois with realtor. So I apologize. I don't want to confuse anybody. I'll try to use the word realtor just because I think that'll be less confusing. But
Yeah.
whatever these are called, realtor opens, broker opens, these are really like 15 years ago when we all didn't have like as much technology. It was kind of a headache to go to those things. And like if you had a fancy client and they wanted to see something, maybe you'd go check it out, or you'd go to support someone else in your office or a friend of yours in the industry. But now you can go there and actually use it to your own benefit by
Yes.
posting. And by the way, Casey, I'm curious. I think people shouldn't even just do this for those broker opens, but they should also do it for every time they go to a showing. Like you can
Hmm.
find something about any property that's
Yeah.
interesting, and you
Yeah.
could do a quick little 30-second video, right?
But there's always like this fine line. So when I show a house to like my number one client of the moment, they're my number one priority, and we find the house, I'm not posting it, because then someone might message me and say, "Can you show me that?" And then and
Right,
then
sure.
and then you're screwed. So, um, yeah. So if it's not one that my client's buying, like, yeah, I'm all about posting it. It is so important, and it's actually like ends up being great for the listing agent as well because you're bringing more eyes to their listing.
Totally. It's a win all the way around. And again, for people that are in between clients, this is a great way to drum up some possible activity, because if and it's also a great place to cut your teeth doing video, because
Hmm.
we now have our phones are very powerful, and even if you're not going to have a professional lighting crew there, which probably you're not, for a broker open or something, you can just shoot a quick, you can shoot and edit and make these short form videos, and really excite your base.
Yeah, so the easiest editing app that I use is called InShot, and it's free, totally free. You just download it and you click on your phone, you could shorten it. And I just highly recommend making these reels on
Yeah.
Instagram and less than 30 seconds, quick shots. But another thing that I think is really interesting about real estate nowadays is the homes that we're showing and we're seeing are just cooler than before.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of competition, which makes it hard to be a seller. But if you have the opportunity to like stylize your home, like you should, because it will stand out in a big way. Um,
You have any suggestions of ways people can do that, that aren't terribly invasive or don't require tremendous reconstruction? Like
yeah.
even just smart home things are kind of exciting, and even though they're
Mhm.
not new anymore,
Yeah.
being able to control things with voice is kind of a cool feature.
Yeah. Um, One listing I can think about that was on the market before and didn't sell. And then we took it off the market when our client allowed us to paint the cabinets and switch out light fixtures. Like literally I like to go to Lowe's. Like Lowe's has like trendier light fixtures than most other affordable places. And so I would switch those out and literally just paint the cabinets. And even though someone might walk through and say, "I'm going to redo this kitchen in a year, 6 months, or tomorrow," they will be able to feel what it's going to look like. So like it's worth every penny, and you could do all that like for under 5 grand or 10 grand. If you put 10 grand into every listing, like it would just go a long way. um Staging is like the most important thing. But then again, you get clients that are like, "I can't leave my house," or, "I live here, I don't have anywhere to go." So you just kind of have to roll with it and figure out the best scenario for your client. And the photos go a long way. Like, even if you don't change anything, if you just get a really high end photographer, which you should cover the cost of for your client, it could transform the property without even doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, we live in an Instagram world. I mean, we've been
Yeah.
living in an Instagram world. And remember, everyone, when we look at photos now, we look at images, we're probably looking at images on social media.
Hmm.
Images for anything, any part of life is really best or most commonly viewed or absorbed by consumers, by the American public, via
Hmm.
social media. And all of we expect perfection in these pictures. We expect things to look right. We expect them to be filtered correctly. For
Yep.
better or for worse, that's where we are. And so
Right.
if you're not putting that sort of thought into your staging, your photos, you're really doing your client a huge disservice, because it's not about the property, it's about how people consume information. People want to see. Now, with video, oddly enough, I don't think people expect perfection, especially for reels and shorter form video, where it's like, hey, this is what I'm doing today. Yeah, you can get away with a little bit of imperfection there. But when it comes to staging and listing a home and getting the photos, yeah, step it up. You'll make more money for the
Yeah.
client. Your client, everything will work, and it'll only cost you a few $100s more. Like it's
And
not a bad
time is
return.
money. Like time is
Oh,
money. Like sell it in a week. Sell it in a week. Everybody wins.
so as you've been growing, yeah, exactly. As you've been growing your business, you're a hustler, and
Hmm.
that's what I've sort of garnered from our conversation so far. Is you're willing to do a lot of the things that like that other agents aren't willing to do, or maybe that you had to do to sort of stand out in the boys club and sort of get your foot in the door. You were writing personal notes and putting them in mailboxes like
Hmm.
that. 99% of realtors are never going to do that. And it's a
Yeah.
shame,
Yeah.
because if they did, they would likely get results like, I mean, you had a tenant in a building take a handwritten letter, hand it off to the landlord, which, by the way, never happens, right? They were just
Super
going to,
random. Yeah. Like
super
insane.
random, but it
Yeah.
did happen because you
Yeah.
put in the effort,
Yeah.
and you were calling expireds, fizz for sale by owners, people that were off the market, um,
Hmm.
and getting screamed at, going, I don't want to talk to a realtor, and yet you're
Yeah.
putting in that effort because you never know, and
You
that's the
never know.
job. The job
Yeah.
is a lot of rejection, and here you are now, and so I'm curious to find out what you're doing today. So you've grown
Hmm.
this incredible business, NDA Real Estate. You guys work with celebrities, you work with non-celebrities, you work in every area of real estate, also investment properties too.
Yeah.
What are you doing these days for marketing purposes to get more clients?
Social media, number one, for sure. As a requirement, every agent at NDA has to go to 3 brokers opens every Tuesday if their schedule allows. Like if they're free that day, they're going. It's working. Like you'll just never know who you're going to attract, and it's just
Yeah.
free advertising that's actually very natural and it works. So
Yeah.
that for one. And then number two, we do these fun NDA boxes like we give to clients. So it's like it's a branding thing, but then it's super like curated, like to go to that influencer. We call it like hashtag gifted by NDA. So like people will see these videos of the NDA boxes, which could they vary. So they're very curated. Like I'll get to know a client and I'll be like, and I will just start making notes of what to get them. Like which is so like funny because it's like beyond like real estate, but it's important for them to know that you know them and you care about them. So like for example, my clients that are in escrow right now are buying their dream home and keeping their first home as a rental, but we realized at their first house that or at both houses you can see each other, so it's like it's just across the canyon. So like just
Yeah.
for fun in the box we're going to get them some binoculars, like
Oh, that's
like
great.
because
I
it's
love that.
funny, it's like funny,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Like
cute.
not really to spy, but like that. And then we'll get them like whatever it is, a bottle of Patron. And
Yeah.
recently I got like a client, just like designer keychain for their new keys, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And people love it. They just eat it right up. And then you use the video on your social media and other people will see that and be like, wait a minute, I want an NDA box. Like I want a home, but I also want the box. So I'm going to hit them up. So
I love
that's
that.
one thing. Yeah.
So I'm curious, what are the differences when working with celebrities versus non-celebrities, as far as helping
Mhm.
them buy and sell homes? Do celebrities tend to have, and I'll put celebrity and high net worth individuals in a similar category,
Mhm.
um, because you work with both. And do they tend to have more of a team that you then have to sort of work with the entire team,
Mhm.
or is it? Yeah, I'm curious what the differences are.
So everyone is totally different. It's just like real life. Like celebrities, some have like business managers that you have to talk to exclusively. Like you don't even really talk to the client. You just show them some houses and you talk to the business manager to make it happen. Others, you're just dealing directly with them. Some literally have an entourage. But I would say like working with celebrities versus non-celebrities, everyone is just so different. Like
Yeah.
there's no one's in a box. No one's in a box at all. Celebrities have been like really great to work with, honestly. Like just super chill and like eye on the prize and like big picture in my experience. And I feel like I have like an eye for what they want. Like recently, I sold a house to this amazing girl, and it needed literally everything, but it was such a cool house that you couldn't find it anywhere. If it was built to this day, like it wouldn't have everything that it had, the charm. And she was down to do the project, and we just like were just so in tune on it. So that makes me super super happy when I can find something super special like that, and then see a client transform it.
And so, at what point did you decide to sort of build your own brokerage, have your own brand, and really just make it your own thing as opposed to working under someone else?
So it all started in 2020. You know, COVID was crazy. I was 7 months pregnant, and for about a month, there was nothing. Right, the whole world was just shut down.
Sure.
There was no real estate. No one was. It was it. Like it was March to May. I would say March to May, dead. And I was just like baking all the time, just like strawberry bread, whatever I could do with my little girls. And so then in May, I was like 8 months pregnant, and then my phone started ringing, and people were like, "Hey, I'm from Seattle, and I want to move to LA. COVID is like getting me excited to like be close to my family. Can you help us?" And I'm like, "Can I help you?" "Yeah, I can help you." And I'm like, I have this big tummy, and I have my mask on, and they at the time you had to wear gloves, and you had to schedule your showing and sign the COVID waivers. It was like a huge ordeal. So that was going on. And so I had one of the biggest months ever in June of 2020, like of my career.
Wow.
And I was 9 months pregnant. Even at the hospital, I was dealing with two escrows, which was great because you're just like, your mind isn't like focused on what's happening. It's just like you're doing it all. And so you don't have time to like stress. So at that point, I was like, why do I need to work anywhere other than my own company? So that is when I signed up to get my broker's license, which is a second kind of step in California,
Yeah.
and run my own brokerage. Why can't I do that? I literally do all my own marketing. I have my own
Right.
clients. I never got my clients from my company, prior
Sure.
company. So I signed up for the test, and you had to fly to Sacramento. Um,
Really?
yes, there was
Huh.
no testing in Los Angeles because of COVID,
Weird.
only
Oh,
at like
right,
the
right, right, right.
headquarters. Yeah. So I had my baby, and then I don't know, maybe like a couple months passed, and I got my test date, and got there, and it was just a huge ordeal. You have to leave at like 4 in the morning, wake up at 3, get there at 7. You get your thing, and it says congratulations, and then that was like the starting point, and I was like, okay, let's go. So then I don't know, a couple weeks went by, and I was like, NDA, that's it. And I looked at my husband, I was like, it's NDA. And he was like, yeah, it's NDA. Like I had no other ideas. It was just, it stands for non disclosure
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to just like be different. And with my clientele, we really know how to protect their privacy based on my experience with all of these cases before. So, like, for example, when celebrities go to buy a house, you have to have a trust so that people don't stalk you. Like it
Right.
literally happens.
Yeah.
And they hang out outside of your house if you don't have a trust.
And
My
paparazzi as well.
Yeah, yeah. All kinds of weirdos watching you. And so that's not cool. Like your house is supposed to be a place you want to just feel safe and inspired, and you don't want to worry about any of those Thanks. A lot of these people too, they're just so busy working that when they go home, they just want to chill. They just want to sleep. And if you have 20 people standing out front, like you're not sleeping.
Right.
So, so that client I was telling you about earlier that used me after I was finding her off market deals,
Mhm.
I found out that on her last sale, it was leaked, and the reason why was because she kept the same trust on her previous house that was leaked by one of the agents, and she didn't change the trust. So these media people have it saved. Like this is a trust, and they have an alert with the title company. Anytime this closes under this trust name, that's her house. That's her new
Wow.
house. It's so creepy. So on the next one, I was like, dude, you need to get a new trust and you need to change the name completely. Like, and even the person who signs for the trust it's somebody that they trust, but it's not
It's
anyone with
not
the
you.
same,
Yeah.
it's not anyone with the same last name. So you can't
Right.
have your mom or, so just someone totally random that you trust
Make the
will
trail
literally,
harder to follow. Yeah.
yeah. So they will sign everything on their behalf. And so I just got really good at figuring out how to keep these things private. And
There's a lot of
yeah.
stress associated with that because a lot of that really goes beyond your control, right? Like
Mhm.
you might not know about trusts. You're not a real estate attorney. You're not an estate planning attorney. You're not a business manager. And so
Right.
some of these things you probably learn along the way.
Yes.
But knowing that now has got to be so incredibly valuable to somebody who is buying like maybe their first property or something that hasn't gone through this like, oh, we need to, you probably have conversations about privacy
Yeah.
and publicity and all of that.
Yeah, even like everyone, I recommend getting their house put in a trust. It's just important for many reasons.
It is a great idea, whether it's an investment property or not. And talk to an estate planning attorney or someone who knows how to do those things.
Mhm.
Curious on, so you have a team, you have
Yeah.
many agents on your team. Of course, you're looking for more agents as well. But I'm so our audience. We're realtor. The audiences are realtors, and I'm curious. You gave a really great suggestion: would go to the open houses, take
Mhm.
videos, post on social. Anything else? Are you still doing personal notes? Are you still doing the things that you were doing at the very beginning? Curious what else is working for you.
I mean, coming up with your own personal brand is so important. So, like, for example, I have one agent on our team, and she's such a hustler, and she also teaches yoga. And I am like, run with this. She's like, really? I'm like,
Totally.
yes, go do a photo shoot at the yoga studio. Like, that is your audience,
Yes.
it could be beyond that, but focus on that because that's what she's known for in her, community and
Yeah.
the whole like, and don't be afraid of the camera. Like, it's so lame that we have to like be models or whatever and
Right.
start like taking photos and stuff. But it's important because people feel like they know you and they want to know you if you aren't afraid to just be who you are and just be authentic and confident. Just it's just so important. So come up with your own personal brand and run with it. Like social media, if you could just schedule a day every week where you take content, like even just with your phone, it will get you clients. It really will.
It's such a great idea, and the yoga one is a really good example because I could hear. I know a lot of people listening to our show have other jobs, right? They do
Mhm.
real estate part time. They want to do it full time, but they have to pay the bills, and right now, real estate isn't paying the bills for a lot of people. And so, as they're building the real estate practice, they have these side jobs, and maybe someone's an Uber driver, or maybe they're a yoga instructor, or maybe they have a full time career doing something else.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't think it's a bad thing to talk about that stuff. I actually think it's quite endearing because
Yeah.
if I can see someone who I believe is working two jobs, like especially like a yoga instructor or as well as a realtor, I'm doubly impressed. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't make me think less of them. It actually
Right.
makes me think more of them because I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, they must really be hustling because in
Yes.
order to do two things, you got to put in a lot of work. And so
Hmm.
for anyone listening that's like, even if you're an Uber driver, I think there's a way to brand that in a way that's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm doing this right now because there's ways to frame it.
Mhm.
If that's your side hustle, and there's ways to frame it that isn't necessarily going to make you look like you're not a professional. There's
Mhm.
always ways to frame things. If you're authentic and you're proud of what you do, you should absolutely be talking about it. Maybe not every part of your life, right? You should have privacy too. But like this idea of like, hey guys, I am a hustler. Anything
Yeah.
that demonstrates I work hard,
Yeah.
and I work for you, I think and again, if it's authentic, absolutely, we all want are the people service professionals in our life to be hustlers. We
Mhm.
want our accountants to be hustlers. We want our attorneys. We want our financial advisors. We want everyone who our doctors. We want all these people to be really, really skilled. And
Mhm.
we know that the way to skill is through hard work. So anything that demonstrates hard work is usually a win, even if it's like, hey, I'm doing this other job that I really wish I wasn't doing.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to even brand those things and say like, hey, this is where I'm at right now. And I
Yeah.
think you'll still attract the right people at the right time by
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
vulnerable and saying, this is who I am.
Yeah. And on that note, being a mom, I always like was afraid. Oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get pregnant. People are gonna stop calling me. Like they're gonna think
Right.
I'm like have a headache or whatever. And and then once I realized that people will say, "Oh, can you help me with this?" They will say it like gently, and then you go, "Yes." Then they're not afraid to use your help. But
Right.
with that, being whoever you are in your family life, for example, a mom, run with that as well. Go to as many mom events as you can with your kid. You know, use your time for multiple reasons. Like have fun with your baby, like help your baby, like have do all these fun like mommy amies, but then it's also literally going to help your business um, in a really natural way. So and then also another thing I want to say is have lunch with somebody completely random every one time a week. Like someone that you met 5 years ago or you just met them last week. Like go to that lunch, even if you think, oh, I don't have anything in common or I don't really know them, just do it. The more people that you speak to on a daily basis is the more business you're going to get and the more you're going to learn. And it's just good, just all around, in life.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the beginning of our episode where you were talking about being an event planner and
Mhm.
meeting tons of people who are at these events and wanting to get into these events. And I mean, there isn't that's about as great a strategy as I've ever heard to building up a real estate database, a contact database, because you're literally just meeting people in a fun social environment. You're capturing their information, and then you can market to them or take them to lunch or develop a relationship or a friendship with them. It's really up to you what you want to do, but none of that can really happen unless you're out there meeting people. And I think there's ways that introverts can do this as well. So I don't want anyone listening thinking, oh gosh,
Mhm.
being going out in public is taxing for me.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert, believe it or not. Most people wouldn't probably know that about me. I'm an
Yeah.
introvert as well.
Wow.
Or I'm more introverted than extroverted, I would say. I mean, I'm both. I'm both, but I'm more introverted. I need a lot of alone time, a lot of rest. But I'm really clear that in my life, getting out and with other people is just good for my overall health, my
Yeah.
business, everything. So this idea of just the more things you can social things, and it could be online, you could do it online, you could do it in
Mhm.
person. I know realtor moms, speaking of moms, who have developed Facebook groups for like, here's all the cool mom events that are going on
Yeah.
in my area.
Yeah.
And that becomes, it's not even a real estate thing, it's a mom sort of resource hub. And they get all the other moms to sort of contribute to it, and then they get all this business as a result of adding value to moms that has nothing to
Yeah.
do with real estate.
Yeah. It's because of that trust, that building that trust that's just completely natural and authentic and real.
Well, let's talk about your brokerage because you
Yeah.
are growing and you
Mhm.
guys are just crushing it. And I
Yeah.
know there's going to be a lot of our listeners who are SoCal agents, and
Mhm.
they would are this is the year. I mean, this is the year of recruiting and joining
Mhm.
teams and switching firms. Markets changed, rates are different. Inventory's different. Everyone's a little uneasy right now. So, great opportunity to explore other options. And Casey, I'm curious if you were looking for another agent to join your team, what would you be looking for, just in case any of our audience thinks they might be a match?
Yeah, so NDA is always looking for new talent, and we're looking for hustlers, like our favorite word. Um, where you just like you just want to keep working and you're hardworking. We're we hired quickly in the beginning, um, and I learned a lot of things. Like for example, I hired someone and I literally like got him a listing, and he was like, "I don't have time to do this right
here's
now."
here's a here's a free $10,000 check. No, I'm good. I don't
And it
need
was
it.
a lot more than that as
It was
well.
more than
So
that.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And I was
Casey,
like,
I will fly out
okay,
there. I will get my
yeah,
license, and you can
yeah,
hand me any deal you want, and I will take
yeah, yeah. So we're looking for people who like to work
it.
and they like people. Uh, yeah, and just whatever makes you unique, we want to know about that. Like
Yeah.
that's super important. Um, Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's like I can just tell when I meet someone that they have it. That just the work ethic and the positive attitude is something that is so huge. Like I'm seeing that a lot of people are like super negative, and I get it. Like it's a crazy time. It's the
Yeah.
world is insane. But if you just are like glass half full person, things are gonna start happening for you, and we want to work with you.
Or at the very least, if you're a glass half full person, I mean, you recognize the weeds in the garden. You're supposed to see the weeds. So, okay, there's weeds in the garden,
Yeah.
and there's also some flowers there too. And
Right.
if you can sort of see it all and see the beauty and some of the challenge at the same time,
Mhm.
it's just going to be less stressful. Like it's still going to be hard. Like life is hard, work is hard, business is hard, but
Yeah.
it's all about reducing distress, right? And so, like, if you're a glass half full person, at least you're paying attention and you're going to get through it with a little bit less anxiety and stress. So
Yeah.
that's I always think, and it's also infectious for the office too. When there's
Yeah.
positive energy around, people kind of feed off of that. So I'm right with you. If anyone out there is thinking about maybe exploring other options, you're in the LA area, you're an agent, maybe you're not getting what you need from your current brokerage or your team, or
Yeah.
maybe you're on your own and just kind of doing it yourself and really want to team up. What's the best way someone should reach out to you in case they think they might be a fit for you?
Just call me or email me. Like I'm always available. Um, and my goal is to have an agent representing NDA in every area of Los Angeles. So like, we have Joe in Santa Monica. I have Steven in Silver Lake. I have Justine in Woodland Hills. So I want someone everywhere. And then when I get a lead, I tend to be very like giving with my agents. Like I just got a lead in Santa Monica and I shared it with Joe, um, just because he was there, proximity, and
Yeah.
he really ran with it and he just did such a great job. So if you're in Los Angeles and you want leads from like genuine leads, true leads from a great brokerage, and then also like the support, that would be NDA. So just hit us up on
Wow.
email
An
or phone.
actual
Yeah.
brokerage who hands out leads. This is a unicorn. This does
Yes.
not happen. We know this, right? Casey
Yeah.
knows this because she
Yeah.
started at a firm and built it all up on her own
Yeah.
without any leads. So she knows just how rare and valuable this is. So you have to prove yourself if you want to join her team, meaning show why you need to be part of the NDA team. Reach out to her. The best way to do that, go to her website, which is NDA-RE, NDA/RE re.com. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. There's a contact us form. Also, follow Casey on Instagram, Casey Napolitano. We'll have a link to that as well in the show notes. But Casey, it was such a pleasure chatting with you, and really fun to watch your ascension as you continue to grow the business and do well. So we are thrilled to continue. And we didn't even get into your Johnny Knoxville story, which I will have to do at a different time, because you
Okay.
have some great celebrity stories that
Yeah.
aren't under NDA that we could talk about. So we
Yes.
will, an NDA, a good non-disclosure agreement. I think we covered that. But the reason she said that is she works with a lot of celebrities and she has to sign NDAs all the time
Yeah.
for her clients to protect their privacy. But she's got some good stories that she can share. So we'll have to have you back sometime to hear some fun celebrity stories. But anyway, if anyone, and by the way, I'll wrap up with this. If anyone out there is now, again, Casey does work with high net worth individuals, so they sometimes have multiple properties in multiple locations. So even if you're not an agent in, Southern California, but maybe you have, you're in a different part of the country where people
Yeah.
also have vacation homes, other properties. Casey would love the opportunity to work with you and refer business back and forth. So even if you're a New
Absolutely.
York agent or you're down in Miami or wherever you are in the country, Nashville, Austin, all these fun destination places that people are buying, second, third, fourth homes. Referrals happen. So reach out to Casey, let her know how you can provide value to her clients, and she might be able to return the favor as well. So Casey, really appreciate you being on the show today. We want to, just as everyone ever wrapping up here, just want to remind everyone to please follow Casey on Instagram, Casey Napolitano Instagram, and you can find all of this on her website as well, which we'll have in the show notes. We want to thank Casey for coming on the show today on behalf of the audience. And on behalf of Casey and myself, we want to thank our audience for continuing to stick around and continue to make our numbers are still going up after 5 years, which is incredible. So I'm so grateful to everyone who is listening or watching at this moment. So thank you. Thank you. And please tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that could benefit from this conversation with Casey. She's a hustler. Think of one other agent that needs to hustle a little bit and send them a link to this episode. You can find us at keepingitrealpod.com. All of our episodes can be streamed there. Or if they're a podcast person, just pull up any podcast app, search for Keeping It Real, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. Casey, thank you so much. I had a great time
Thank
with you,
you.
and we will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Casey.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.